another book, and I'm going to review it because that's the way we do it. The book is called The Stranger, sometimes called The Outsider, by Albert Camus. Albert Camus was a French-Algerian author and philosopher who wrote books on the meaninglessness and the absurdity of life, man. So I had previously kind of gotten a sense for him because I've read one of his philosophy books, which I actually enjoyed. And so when I saw this in one of those like micro free library thingies, I eagerly grabbed it, and it was pretty good. Yeah. So what is The Stranger about? It's about a guy named Meursault whose mother passes away at the very start of the book, and he doesn't really feel any particular way about it. The character of Meursault, he's extremely flat. He sort of lives on the periphery of society in the sense that he never really engages with the social sphere. He's not sentimental. He doesn't have any real emotional connections. He just has a very simple life where he goes to his dull office job and he hangs out at his apartment watching people. And the prose is first person, so you really get inside of his head. It's robotic and it's stiff and it's very utilitarian, so it really sets the tone and immerses you in the way that this character thinks. It sort of comes to a head when he finally breaks out of his state of not really doing anything and he actually takes action, but it's a mistake and it leads him down a very bad path where suddenly all the people in his life, including his very few acquaintances, are suddenly casting judgment on him and scrutinizing him in a way that he's never felt before. The first half of this short novel is pretty unassuming. It centers mostly on social situations and mundane day-to-day routines that you don't really think that much about, but they come back later in a big way where suddenly people are using all of these little social faux pas that Meursault has done throughout the story as a way of condemning him and criticizing him. Like I said, the story hinges on one action that happens in the middle, but instead of criticizing Meursault for the action he's taken, they instead hyper-focus on how he's this weirdo outsider. And you've been in his head the whole time. You've seen him, like, kind of question how to react to certain things, or, like, how should I behave in this social situation? Then later, it's kind of like a sense of betrayal where you see, oh, like, this is how he's been perceived all along. And because there's this sense of things escalating beyond the character's control, and because there's this sort of bureaucracy that is taking center stage, you're really reminded of like a novel by Franz Kafka, and it has that same sort of foreboding tone throughout, especially as the story reaches its climax. The resolution to this story is definitely not very conventional. I think a lot of readers are going to feel kind of cold after reading it, but I personally really enjoyed it. I think that Meursault has a very clear character arc, and I love how the book illustrated that we take things like convention and conformity way too seriously. I also love how the prose reflected the character. You really got inside of Meursault's world, and you are often put off by him because he has no reaction to things that would normally upset or disturb anyone else. But at the same time, it's also relatable because we've all had moments where we feel like social outcasts or make these mistakes, or we have a weird idiosyncrasy that causes people to unfairly judge us. And I think as well that the author was trying to point out that Meursault is a product of his surroundings in many cases. Like his relationship with his mother, or his lack of a relationship with his mother, is criticized, but it's very easy to parallel it with, say, the relationship between Raymond and the prostitute, or Solomano and his dog. And then there's the fact that his life is very mundane and robotic and repetitive, and death is treated in a very cold and distant sort of way. So you can kind of understand why Meursault is the way he is as you learn about his life. So the book illustrates that Meursault's life is not really that strange. everyone lives the same mundane, meaningless sort of life that he does. The only difference, and the thing that challenges and even intimidates people, is that he doesn't have the same social signifiers to artificially inflate his own meaning and make the universe seem to make sense. He doesn't believe in God, he doesn't believe in fate, he doesn't believe in an afterlife. And when he's confronted with that, you really see just how desperate some people are to cling on to this idea that yes, their life has to have meaning, that their life has to have a preordained course, otherwise it's not worth living. But Meursault's rejection of that is definitely paralleled in Albert Camus' philosophy, and definitely relates to the philosophy book that I read by him earlier on. In terms of the philosophy of the book, my one tiny complaint is that I would have liked to see Meursault struggle a little bit more with the existentialism of the novel, because most people who have come to an existential realization have to face a lot of difficult truths and discard a lot of these dearly held beliefs. Meursault starts off the book without those beliefs, so there's less of an internal conflict within him that I would have liked to see that kind of thing play out. I also think that the straightforwardness of the existentialism is done in such a way that if you don't already have sort of an existentialist worldview, you're not really going to be swayed and you're not really going to be satisfied by how the book ends. But obviously the book is very simple, it's very short, but as it stands, I think it's a pretty good book. I would give it a 7 out of 10. In terms of books that are fairly transparent vessels for philosophy, I think this book is one of the better ones that I've read. So yeah, definitely check it out. And like I said, look at how short this thing is. Like, even if it's not up your alley, it's worth trying, and you'll get through it before you even know it. So yeah, that's my review. Thanks for checking it out. Thanks for watching. Have a good night. Have a good day. Please subscribe, and I'll see you next time.